Chapter 12, The Mystery of Cataclysms, The Days of Collapse. Up to now, our search has focused on the long-term crashes of the financial and economic world. Collapses spread out over a period of months, and generally lasting more than a year's time. But now we begin a new search. We will now look at the stock market's greatest one-day crashes. The search is different, and will involve different principles and dynamics. Long-term collapses tend, by nature, to be caused or affected by long-term conditions, trends, and dynamics. But single-day crashes are more volatile, unpredictable, and susceptible to fluke circumstances and chance factors. A good example of this is the Black Monday crash of 1987, the causes of which have been attributed to everything from rising interest rates to the quirks of computer trading programs. The Shemitah's other keys. Another major difference between long-term crashes and single-day crashes is, of course, the time frame. A long-term collapse will generally involve several seasons. A single-day crash will, by definition, involve a single season, month, and date. So beyond the component of the seventh year, we will now be able to look deeper at the Shemitah's other components, namely the time of year, the month, and the days. We will now more clearly be able to see if there exists any connection between modern financial collapses and Elul, the month that leads in and builds up to the Shemitah's beginning and its climactic conclusion. Tishri, the month most central to the Shemitah, that which marks the seventh year at its beginning and manifests its financial repercussions at its end. The Shemitah's wake, the season that immediately follows the Shemitah's day of remission and manifests its repercussions. Having now the keys, let us begin the search. The 10 greatest single-day point crashes in stock market history. For our first search, we will look at the 10 greatest point crashes in Wall Street history. These are the financial collapses in which the greatest number of stock market points were wiped away. The 7-year key and the 10 greatest point crashes. Of the 10 greatest stock market point crashes in history, are any of them connected to the year of the Shemitah? Since the year of the Shemitah comes around only once in 7 years, the chances would be 1 in 7. There are 10 crashes on the list, so the chances of any one of these crashes taking place in the year of the Shemitah is 15%. But if there was something else going on, then the number would be greater than 15%. Do any of these crashes have a connection to the year of the Shemitah? The answer is yes. Is the percentage greater than 15%? The answer is again, yes. How many of the greatest single-day point crashes in Wall Street history are connected to the year of the Shemitah? The majority of them. Over half of the greatest point crashes in Wall Street history are joined to the biblical year of remission. An incredible 60% of the 10 greatest crashes take place either within the Shemitah or within its wake. Or, to put it another way, only a minority of the greatest crashes take place outside the biblical year of the Shemitah. The Tishri key and the great point crashes. Now, let's take another component of the ancient mystery and see if it bears any relation to the greatest crashes in Wall Street history. Are any of these greatest point crashes linked to the Shemitah's key month of Tishri, including the day on which Tishri begins at sunset? There are 12 months in the Hebrew year, with the exception of a 13th leap month inserted in the calendar about every 3 years. So the odds that any of the 10 greatest stock market crashes would take place in the Hebrew month of Tishri are a little less than 1 in 12. Thus, we could expect that, at best, one of the 10 greatest point crashes might fall in Tishri, or none at all. But if something more than natural were going on, then the number would be greater than 1 in 10. So do any of these crashes have a connection to the Hebrew month of Tishri? The answer is yes. How many of the greatest single-day point crashes in stock market history are connected to the Hebrew month of Tishri? The majority of them. Over half of the greatest stock market crashes in Wall Street history are connected to this single solitary Hebrew month. The number is 60%. That the majority of the crashes should cluster around a single Hebrew month, and that only a minority take place outside of it, is remarkable. The last Tishri and the greatest point crashes. Let's raise the parameters. Do any of the greatest financial collapses that fall in the month of Tishri fall specifically on the Tishri of the 7th year? And even more specifically, Do any of them fall on the specific Tishri that closes the 7th year? The answer is 80% of them. More than any other time of year, and more than any other time in 7 years, they fall on the Tishri that closes the Shemitah. The majority of the greatest point crashes in history just happen to take place in a very small period of time that comes around once in 7 years, which just so happens to be the same time on the biblical calendar for manifesting the massive financial repercussions of the 7th year. Connecting the puzzle pieces. The 7th year, the month of Tishri, and specifically the Tishri that appears at the close of the 7th year, are all components of the mystery. As signs, they may appear independent of the others, one in one crash, another in another. But what happens if we put it all together, taking the greatest point crashes in modern stock market history and holding them up against the components of the ancient mystery? How many of the 10 greatest point crashes in Wall Street history are connected either to the biblical month of Tishri or the biblical year of the Shemitah? 70%. How many of the 10 greatest point crashes in Wall Street history are connected either to the biblical month of Tishri or the biblical year of the Shemitah, including the Shemitah's lead-in months? 80%. The October phenomenon and the ancient mystery. The strange clustering of financial collapses in the autumn, particularly in the month of October, has mystified financial analysts for years. In earlier times, some sought to explain the phenomenon by linking it to the depletion of cash reserves caused by farmers getting paid for their autumn harvest. But this and other attempted explanations have all failed as times and conditions have changed. As have the factors behind the stock market crashes of modern times. It has remained a mysterious and inexplicable phenomenon. And yet the amazing thing is that while financial analysts have noted this strange phenomenon of stock market collapses gravitating to the autumn and have found it inexplicable, the very same time is appointed by God in Scripture for financial nullification. The mystery of the Shemitah provides the missing keys. It reveals the ancient biblical connection joining together the autumn with the financial implosion. The key is not simply the season of autumn or the month of October, but specifically the biblical month of Tishri and its lead-in month of Elul. Added to this is the second key, that of the 7-year cycle, and specifically, the specific 7-year cycle of the Shemitah. When you then hold up the financial collapses of modern history to the ancient mystery, the revelation becomes amazingly clear. The other cataclysms. If the ancient mystery is at work, we should expect it to leave its fingerprints in more than one sphere of financial cataclysm. We now move into the second of the two major spheres of collapses, the percentage crashes. The greatest point crashes in stock market history are those in which the greatest volume or market points are wiped away. But there is another measure and category of financial collapse, the greatest percentage crashes. In these, it is not the volume or magnitude of the crash that counts, but how much was wiped away in proportion to the overall market, the percentage lost. The greatest percentage crashes in Wall Street history take place over a wide span of time, from 1899 to 2008. Do these crashes of percentage reveal anything beyond the natural? The 18 days of Tishri. Of the 10 greatest percentage crashes in stock market history, do any of them take place in the biblical month of Tishri? We start out again with a 1 in 12 chance for any event to take place in this single month. And again, we have only 10 crashes. So we might expect perhaps one of the 10 greatest percentage crashes to have happened in that Hebrew month, or none. What is the answer? 40% of the greatest percentage crashes in Wall Street history take place in this single Hebrew month. No other month comes close.